Hello and welcome to episode 2 of In at the Side. Obviously, due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, we're all on via Skype. I'm joined with Neil Williamson and Jack Donovan, and our principal mental health partner, Nick Marshall. So this episode is just basically going to be about our current partners, what they're about, what they do, and what we're going to do moving forward. So we're just going to introduce Nick here. Nick, how long have you been running Marshall Men's Minds for?
Good evening, everybody, first of all. So I set up Marshall Men's Minds in June last year after realising there wasn't enough support for men around, knowing that men don't speak about their own mental health, they don't talk about the problems, they don't bottle things up. So I just wanted to give an opportunity for people to really come along and have a chat and just talk to like-minded individuals and get stuff off the chest, really.
Oh, that's good. So, yeah, obviously that's a big part of what we're about here at the Dodgy Sevens. You know, create a safe space to get stuff off your chest or just chat, you know, as much as you want to share and as little as you want to share. So, obviously, we're a rugby team. Obviously, you're very heavily linked with rugby. Do you want to talk about how that has supported you mentally?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professional game match official, operating as an assistant referee, currently in the Championship, hoping to get into the Premiership. And operating in the professional game is really intense, really sort of high performance, a lot of analysing games, looking at performances. And unfortunately, because it is professional sport, if you don't perform well every week, you do get dropped just the same as everyone else. And I think last year I sort of struggled with a few incidents where for 7 to 9 minutes I was sort of having a standard game, and then for one crazy thought process I was sort of struggling making a bad decision, and then that sort of snowballed then and became bigger and bigger and bigger, and it really started affecting me, not just on the park but off it as well, where I was overanalyzing situations and really getting into my mind about why things were going wrong rather than just sort of learning from it and bouncing on. So I really had a bit of a decline in my mental health during that time, where I was struggling off the pitch anyway with stuff. The rugby was meant to be my release, and then it actually became a bit more of a burden and added sort of the extra pressure to me. So kind of did the complete opposite to what I was hoping.
Right, okay, yeah. So obviously, you know, officiating a match is massive pressure, and you found that something that you did enjoy doing then became a bit of a stress on yourself.
Yeah, 100%. The buzz of the feeling of sort of walking out on the pitch in front of people and operating at that high level, that didn't faze me at all, and I never really got nervous other than sort of good nerves. But it was just that one decision. I don't know, rabbit in the headlights or rush of blood to the head. I can't still, to this day, I still can't put my finger on it. But whatever I did, whatever I tried, things just seemed to get worse and worse. And as I say, it just affected me then off the pitch mentally, and I really sort of struggled to find a release then. Hence the reason I've set up this group.
That's good, really good. Obviously, I met you via Neil, mutual friends and all that sort of stuff. And obviously, you're a very big personality within the rugby industry. So is there services for, obviously, you've got like the RPA and stuff that offer help for players struggling mentally. Is there anything for match officials?
So in terms of local societies, they do have duty of care over their match officials. The RFU are starting to catch up with mental health. There is support in place for the professional guys because they're in at Twickenham every day. So there is things available, but for the sort of lesser known people, it's really taken off. And I think because mental health is a lot more in society now, people are really catching up on that. And I think, unfortunately, is a case of catching up. We can't really be trendsetters, but we can sort of put everything in place to try and help these people. And it's all about just giving them the opportunity, giving them the footprint, individuals, whether it be men or women or kids even, to be honest, just to talk and just get things off the chest. That's the key. It can be speaking to a counsellor or somebody specially qualified if you're willing to pay money, or there are various opportunities to go and speak to your local Samaritans or I don't know, there's so many different organisations around. But as I say, I created Marshall Men's Minds as a free entity just to allow people to come along, have a cup of tea once a week face to face and just talk to other people, because a man talking to another man is not really common, but when they've got that sort of togetherness of both having issues, you tend to have that rapport with each other, even though you may be strangers.
So yeah, I think that
there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'd say that's the key message there is talking, and that's what we're trying to promote through rugby as well, and everything else, and in conjunction with yourself. But I know we've all at least known someone or have suffered with mental health issues ourselves, and talking is the key. But that sometimes is the hardest thing, which I don't associate with that. But looking from the outside or from hindsight, you look at it and think, why didn't I just speak to my family? Why didn't I just speak to my best mate? At the time, you don't want to bother them, do you? And that's what we got to break the stigma of. Men should just man up, and we need to talk about stuff.
I think, just to add to that though, Neil, I think half the problem is a lot of men don't admit that they've got a problem in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's almost taking that first step and just realising that there is a problem. Now, when I first suffered with depression a few years ago, I actually sought some counsel and started getting the help. But in my mind, I thought to myself, that'll be enough to get people off my back, because I wasn't fully prepared to invest in that time to get myself better, because I didn't really want to admit how bad I was. Yeah. So I kind of masked it and just said, yeah, that'll do. Tell people what they wanted to know, and then my loved ones who were worrying about me sort of said, yeah, I've done that, I'm in a better place. And then unfortunately it came back and bit me in the backside again, and I really sort of had to look in a mirror. And I think another reason why I set up this group is because I am fully self-aware of what is wrong with me, and I admit that I've got depression for the rest of my life now. That doesn't mean I'm going to be in a depressive state for the rest of my life, but I can identify what my triggers are, and that's all I want to do with other people. I just want them to understand how their brain works and identify what triggers for them, and then stop it before it gets into the anxiety and the depressive state. Because when you're in that stage, it's not a good place to be, because it's really hard to get yourself out. And unfortunately, at the moment with coronavirus and being stuck indoors, it's not a good recipe.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And Donovan, I just want to bring you in here, because obviously, having played the highest standard of rugby on this conference call, so to say,
harsh.
It's unfortunately it's factual.
We're talking about natural talents, or
purely black and white on paper. Is obviously
since Neil being a bit bitter about
that. He can be as bitter as he wants. So yeah, come back to that point. Obviously, is there support for players who aren't playing in obviously the lowest leagues and aren't in the top leagues? Is this an issue? Obviously, we touched on episode 1 about players in the championship turning to performance-enhancing drugs because of the pressure they feel to get in the team, or they don't get paid enough they play. So is this sort of support provided to players playing in the national leagues?
I think, to be fair, like what I've seen a lot of is sort of that sort of brotherly culture.
Yeah.
But again, there's the financial debacle that there's such a almost rotating door system at a few different places that, like, people that I've spoken to and everything, you don't necessarily see the support networks outside of, let's say, the brotherhood of your team and everything on the squad. You'll see it at some clubs where it is really tight knit and you feel good and you are able to chat. But there are other, obviously I won't give examples or anything, but you've got other examples where you can't necessarily express how you're feeling mentally off the pitch. Like it might be something that you're struggling on field and that's affecting you off field. You've not necessarily got the support network, because unfortunately a lot of the support networks, I know we say, there's mental health charities and everything, and like what you're doing is fantastic, and it's a lot of it is down to financials, because you see it in comparison to, let's say, football, the finances just aren't anywhere near in the same sort of sphere. So you can't go and, let's say, play Nat 2 or Premier Standard and have the accessibility to all of those features. You don't. You're quite lucky, to be fair, if you go and you get a good physio and maybe a little bit of dough for playing on the weekend. But at the end of the day, after that, it's sort of pocket money, really. It's not necessarily go and be the top level, get all your psychological help, your physiological help, and then go and play rugby. it's really quite a burden, to be fair. And I imagine it does take a lot of strain. It's taken a strain on me. It's taken a strain on other players. You do see it, and it's. I wouldn't necessarily say the support network is fully there, but as Nick touched on earlier, the RFU are starting to take more steps. You're seeing a lot more things in it, particularly coaching CPDs now as well. They're coming in doing a little bit on the mental side of the game. So the steps are being made, and it's good, but it's whether that support network comes from charities, from organisations, or whether it is through that sort of network of brotherhood of rugby. And like we were saying, feeling okay to talk.
So yeah, Nick touched on obviously with the RFU catching up, because obviously this is a big issue that has only recently come to light, and I think it's still coming to light with people still not accepting it as a serious issue. So we've got a lot of websites and stuff being invested in, and with online resources. But what I think really sets you apart, Nick, is obviously it's great that you can go onto a website and look at support, but that still drives you to then take further action. Whereas obviously your groups, you're there, you're in person, you're talking to actual people. Is this something that you'd like to, roll out across the country?
Yeah. If I had the resource, Dom, I'd literally be everywhere setting this up. Unfortunately, at the moment, I'm a one-man band, and it's so difficult. I'm financially paying for it myself. I have got a couple of people that are helping out in terms of money, and we've got a few grants from local places. But at the moment, this is purely just a Gloucester thing, just from where I live. We've got a pool of about 20, 25 people at the moment that come regularly, and we've got people dipping in, dipping out when they need to. But it's more a case of just, aside from the Wednesday night meetings that we're having, we're actually found that we're all becoming really close friends as well, because you've got that relationship with each other, and it's that close knit, that like brotherhood that was mentioned before about where rugby teams together, because we've all been in the same position. We're all there just to support each other, and that's the big thing that I'm pushing with Marshall and Men's Minds, that as soon as you come into the fold, you are then part of the family, and we are together, and the group is all about looking after each other. It's not about Nick Marshall sitting there and singing Kumbaya in a circle and holding hands and whatever. It's a case of we all listen to each other. I just facilitate a conversation. I try and, because I like talking, some of the members will tell you that I talk too much and they shut me up sometimes, but it's all a case of just learning and listening to other people and listening to what other people have been through, because I've suffered with depression. I don't necessarily know all the ins and outs about anxiety. So I need somebody that's suffered with anxiety to help somebody else with anxiety. Does that make sense? So we all bounce off each other. And that's what it's all about. It's learning from each other's experiences. Because in a game of rugby, if you watch somebody drop a ball, you learn from that to don't drop the ball. But in life, if you look at somebody and think they're close to taking their own lives, we don't learn from that. And that's what we need to do. And that's how spreading the word and making it more acceptable to talk about your mental health issues, just the same as talking about a broken ankle or talking about a dislocated finger that you've got or whatever. It's just making it.
Sorry, Nick. The difference between that and stuff wrong with you, like your mind, like the mental health issues, is that it's easier to talk about a broken leg in a cast because everyone goes, "Oh, what you done to your leg?" Everyone goes, "What you done to your arm?" Whereas if you've done something, if you've got something going on in your head, no one can see that. No one ever starts that conversation. So it's always you having to do that, which is the hard step, obviously.
So I'm just going to take 2 points you said there. There's two things about that, and one, there's a little bit of acceptance that people don't necessarily want to ask you about that. Because when you walk past somebody and you say, "Hi, how you doing?" and it's almost that acknowledgement of, "Hi, yeah, I'm okay, thanks." You wouldn't. That's an acknowledgement. It's not a case of, I wouldn't take that seriously.
No.
Because if somebody stopped me in the street and went, "Oh, I'm not actually very good. Do you mind having 10 minutes?" I wouldn't hesitate to speak to them. But a lot of people in society wouldn't know what to do if somebody said, "Oh no, I'm having a really bad day. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling like I want to go and jump off a bridge or something." And I say that quite bluntly, but it's true. People wouldn't know how to handle a situation. And I had a friend of mine ring me up a few weeks ago. Now, I haven't got any qualifications, I just use my human interaction and just the ability to have a conversation with people. And somebody rang me up and said to me, Nick, I've got a friend that's struggling a little bit. What do I say to them? And I just said, be yourself. Yeah, but I want to make jokes and stuff like that. Well, they've clearly rang you for a reason, so make jokes. Don't beat around the bush. Don't worry about it, because they've looked to you for advice and support. Just be yourself, but don't sort of be over the top or skirt around the issue, because people that have come to terms with the fact that they want to speak to somebody, they're there to do it. So you've got to have those blunt conversations, because it is unfortunately a matter of life and death.
So do you think that's another side of the issue, is that when people do get reached out to, they find out they don't know what to say, they're worried about saying the wrong thing and stuff like that? Do you think that's an education piece we all need to learn? Yeah. So that as a human, not within just sport.
100%. It's just general life. So that comes into actually what the second point I was going to make from what Neil said. The complexity of a mind is so diverse. If you look at mental health issues on the internet, it will come up with so many different ailments, different diagnosis or whatever. You will never know one from the other. Like, all four of us here could be suffering with 4 different types of mental health issue without even knowing it, because you can't tell from looking at somebody.
Yeah.
That's the lack of education, a lack of understanding from people that all these things are around. Now, gone are the times where you go, oh, bloody hell, you're just mental, or you don't call people crazy anymore, because it is a lot more common. And being crazy is not a bad thing. It's just meaning that you have to control it. And you look at somebody like Tyson Fury, who is an elite level sportsman who suffers with bipolar. He suffers with anxiety. He suffers with depression. He is a world champion. He's just Deontay Wilder, and he's back to have another fight. But the fact that he's got bipolar, which is a pretty severe mental health issue with a form of schizophrenia, isn't it? He manages it so that he can box. Now, there's no reason that none of us can manage it and recover from this. And as I said before, it's about understanding your own mind so that you can still operate at the top level.
Yeah, no, it's good. And, definitely, as you say, an education piece, as humans, we all need to learn moving forward, because, again, that's going to be the potential of someone taking steps further is always going to be in people's minds. And then, what mental effects will they have on stuff?
Yeah.
I think there is a difficulty, and unfortunately this does lie a little bit with the older generation that we've got, because when they were kids they never really suffered, or it wasn't readily acceptable that people would sort of say, oh, I'm having a bad day here, I'm really suffering with depression or whatever. They don't normally talk about it, so it's a lot harder for them to turn around and say, yeah, it's normal for me to sort of put my hand up and say I've got a problem, because it was never done. People never spoke about their issues back in the day. My parents never did it. But it's just changing that culture. And as you say, the education piece, some people don't believe in it, some people do. And if we can change the mindset of one person, then it will have been a success.
No, that's good. So,
just a couple of things. I want to track back on one thing in a moment, but you're saying about the education process. Where do you feel all of that should really start? Is that something that should naturally be a culture, or do you think that's something that maybe we could actually integrate into education?
100% education, because we teach people about how to look after general first aid at school. If you cut something, you put a bandage on it. So why not talk to kids? There is so much pressure on these kids nowadays. And I, again, come back to the coronavirus issue. I've been reading a lot of sort of articles and stuff about kids that are not going to sit their SATs at year 6. What's year 6? 10, 11? 12,
yeah, 10, 11.
The pressure on these kids to perform, and they're now having to homeschool and stuff, it's immense. Because if you don't do well in your SATs, you don't get your secondary school. So the pressure on these kids to perform well there, it's immense. I never felt that pressure, and I don't know if you did, Neil. Obviously, we went to the same school, but I never really felt that. But
no, not really.
Because the pressure in the kids nowadays, why not teach them about talking at such a young age? Because if it starts happening on the playgrounds, if they start going, flipping heck, I've had a really bad day, my mum told me off last night because I didn't clean my room, then they don't end up with mother issues 20, 30 years down the line.
Yeah. No, it's a good shout. I think it's a great shout to bring it in as early as possible and to make it normal to talk about.
So do you think, obviously, I don't want to offend people on the call and say they're old, but obviously growing up without social media, and now having social media, and now obviously you're getting this generation that lives their whole life on social media from the age of 9, 10, 11. Do you think that's adding to the pressure?
Massive.
Yeah. Well, it's like you saying that as well. Because obviously I work in the education sector anyway. Like the amount of kids that I see in primary school who like run around going, "Oh, sir, have you got TikTok and stuff like that?" I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you guys have readily got access to all of this.
Yeah.
When I was that age, I probably knew about some of it. Definitely didn't have access to it. I can tell you now. My dad wouldn't have even imagined what that was. He'd probably sort of be out of a stick. But and you see all this. It's almost like you're giving them the attitude of someone that should be a lot older, and you're forcing it all upon them so early. And it's one thing. Like I know I've spoken to some of the Dodgers boys about how we do try and promote mental health, particularly in young people. It's something that I try and do, but the one thing that I see, and like you see it through rugby, is obviously it's not, you see it in both genders, boy and girls or others, but at the same time, I've seen particularly sort of year 6 when the testosterone starting to kick in, a lot of the boys are starting to get at each other's throats and everything, and it's sort of dealt with, and then like, if there's an issue on a playground, teachers will split them up, and then that's it. And then they're left to fester with those issues because that's the easy way out.
And then it all spills over online as well.
Sorry?
And then it all spills over online.
Yeah.
When they
That's
get home.
with online and with social media, there is no get away from it. I mean, in mine and Nick's day, if you had a shit day at school, if you had a run-in with someone, at least if you went home, you didn't have to deal with them until the next day.
Yeah.
If that was about, whereas now you go home, you've got all the fucking hate mail, you've got all the fucking gnomes, trolls. God,
Definitely no gnomes.
Sorry, I'm letting our age group down, Nick. You get all the, constantly. It's impossible. I've got 3 daughters. I hate to think what it's going to be like for them growing up, going to school with all this going on, and all, it was bad enough without phones and stuff back in the day. With them, it's like you say, 20. It never stops.
And I think just to add to that, Neil, I think you obviously got young kids. I've got 2 young kids, and I will be educating my kids to tell me about stuff like that. And I know it's going to be really difficult because it's almost invading their privacy, but they've got to feel like they can come to me with anything because of what, again, I've read about in the news where people 12, 13 years old are getting bullied and taking their own lives at that age. It is horrendous. And unfortunately, people do sit behind their computer screen sometimes and chuck barrage. You see it on Twitter all the time. If you haven't got anything good to say, why say it at all? But people want that 1 minute of spotlight. And if we react to it, then it looks like they've won.
No, definitely. So, obviously.
Sorry, can I just?
Go on, Donald.
The other thing I was going to ask, you say like you get individuals and everything approach you, and you get these groups. Do you ever get any contact directly from clubs, like asking, could you come and do like a network for the whole club or?
So I haven't. So in terms of my delivery, I got asked. A friend of mine works for the RFU as a match official developer, and she invited me down to Somerset Referee Society just before Christmas, and I went down there and I delivered a mental resilience presentation as a match official, and then I went and delivered it in Hampshire in January. But it's something that we can literally put you can say about mental resilience in absolutely any walk of life. So it's something that I'd be prepared to come and speak to anybody about, because I'm really passionate about trying to help people. And the biggest thing that I want anybody to take away from this is just to understand that it's acceptable to speak up and say you've got a problem. That's the biggest thing. And if it can help people, I'd 100% travel around the country and do that. No problem at all.
That's really good. Great to hear. Obviously, COVID-19 pandemic, we're currently in the beginning of, I'm not too sure how long it's going to go on for. You got any tips for anyone listening to keep them mentally healthy, keep them grounded,
So so sorry to go back to it, people, but the biggest thing to talk. I know a lot of people are going to be stuck in with their loved ones, living in each other's pockets. There's going to be a lot of people that are living on their own. For both types, you've got to talk to people. You've got to talk to people outside of your network, whether it be using Skype or Zoom or whatever. House party, I know, a big thing this weekend, just gone, but I think there's a few issues to that. But whatever the media is, talk to people, because if you don't talk to people outside of your support network within the house, you will go stir crazy. Because
on that point,
sorry.
As I say, on that point, obviously the coronavirus is a terrible thing. Everyone's, it's never happened to us before. We're all on lockdown effectively. But I think there could possibly be some benefits to come from it. Now, what I mean by that is already people are talking more, people are Skyping more, people are just staying in contact, just ringing people to say, how you doing? I speak to my mum every day now. I speak to my brother on FaceTime every day. I could guarantee my brother would never answer the phone to me. But literally, it's just mad. Like, do you think that this can carry on? Or do you think that when we go back to normal, it'll just go back to as it was? Or do you think that we can take something positive from this and grow from it that way?
So Nick Marshall thinks that unfortunately will go back to normal. Yeah. Because I think everybody will get engrossed back into their lives. Everyone will go back to being at work, having their own personal lives out in the pub or whatever, or doing sport, whatever, and nobody have time for each other. And the reason why everyone's talking to each other at the moment is not only just to check on them, but also I think it's down to boredom.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they've got nothing else to do. And I'd love to be proven wrong, and listeners, please prove me wrong. But unfortunately, I think if we can change it for the better and use it as the norm to check in on people, it'd be great. But unfortunately, I don't think it will be.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah. But it comes back to the same thing, doesn't it? Obviously, before this, when we just done episode 1, Gloucester just done the Be Kind game, and that was all triggered by something that had happened.
Yeah.
Like, that was triggered off the unfortunate situation, very sad situation of Caroline Flack, which then triggered the whole Be Kind campaign. This is obviously the action of checking in with people has been triggered by the pandemic.
Yeah.
So again, we're seeing a slight repeat. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but people do need reminding.
Yeah.
To get to look out for each other.
I agree. I agree with those 2 points there, 100% about those 2 incidents. Unfortunately, both have been as a result of something happening. So it's reactive. We need to be proactive and make it the norm. I know when your true friends of when you don't see them for a year and then you all get back together and nothing feels like it hadn't changed. So why not pick up the phone and have a chat with them? Just check they're all right, because you never know. That one phone call might actually save somebody's life.
Yeah, for sure. So we're coming up to the half an hour mark. Nick, see, that was easier than you thought. Obviously.
One more thing, sorry, Dom.
Yeah, go on.
Particularly like in the refereeing sphere and everything, something that I sort of notice bouncing around in different areas. Do you find there's a difference in the standard of mental health between people in a rural background or have grown up in a rural setting to those who are necessarily more urban or city or town based?
Do you know what? That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer. I don't know if there would be any difference. I think from society to society and areas and stuff, I think it would be. I don't know. That's a really good point, and I'll do some digging to answer your question because
I have heard that there are unfortunately higher rates of negative impact in a rural setting.
Is that because of the isolation and because they feel alone?
That's one of the things I'm wondering. You see it a lot, particularly young farming communities and everything like that. You do see unfortunate events and stuff. Yeah. So I was actually wondering whether that is purely because of that isolation or the pressure.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really good point. But again, if they are feeling isolated, hopefully this pandemic and the self-isolation and the lockdown, hopefully that will drive them forward to pick up the phone and speak to each other more. If that is the case. But do you know what? Mental health as a match official is something that we're only getting into just now. It's talking about the bigger picture. We're not just talking about specifically on a Saturday. Obviously, the talks that I've given about mental resilience as a match official are specifically related to sport, but it's all about how you utilise the rest of your time. And the big thing that I found before was on a Saturday, your cup final, it's not putting all your eggs in one basket. It's not. Yes, it is to live and die for, but the bigger scheme of things, it is only a game, and that's the thing that we need to look at. There was a gentleman, unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he was at a club down in the Hampshire area, and he went missing, and unfortunately, he took his life. But the brotherhood and everybody went there looking for him, and it just put things in perspective that it is only a game, and mental health is such a bigger thing than that. But obviously, we can utilise and through the Dodger Sevens, we can use rugby as the tool to get people talking about it. And obviously, Danny Cipriani did a big thing with his video that he did, and then the Be Kind campaign that they did, and they ran. It's really good publicity for mental health. But let's make it the norm. Let's get branding out there. Let's get people talking about it in the stands. Let's get players talking about it as the norm. Because I know I've overrun the time, but I'm just going to give you just one thing to think about. When men open up, there are, I've done my research, there are 2 times that men generally open up and talk to another man, aside from mental health groups. And that one is walking down the street and one is in the car. Any of you can tell me why that would be?
Right. I'll tell you, in the car would be because
he's on the phone.
No. So if you're sitting next to each other.
No, you sit next to him in the car. Because you're like, it's just you two, no one else can hear.
But there's no eye contact.
Ah.
So if you ever notice a man speaking to another man, eye contact with each other is such a powerful thing. Really, really powerful. And men don't make eye contact with each other. It's really uncommon. So men find it a lot easier to speak to another man when they're not making eye contact. So because you're walking down a road, you're both going in the same direction. So it would be odd to look at somebody and walk down the road. And again, you're not going to make eye contact with somebody when they're driving because it would be unsafe. So that's why people tend to open up when they're walking down the street or driving.
What a thought. That's brilliant.
So there we go. I'm going to leave you on that one.
So COVID-19 pandemic ongoing. Do you want to tell everyone how they can get involved with Marshall Men's Minds?
Yeah, so unfortunately, because we can't run our weekly face-to-face meetings, we can still run a face-to-face meeting through the internet. And every Wednesday, I've been setting up Zoom calls. So if you haven't got Zoom, please download it and look for the announcements that we're putting on our page on Facebook. Or drop me an email at info@marshallingmensminds.co.uk. We'll be running 3 Zoom calls, one at 7:30, one at 8 o'clock, and one at 8:30. Everybody is welcome, and it just gives you an opportunity for anywhere across the country or the world to come and have a chat and just talk about anything other than coronavirus.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Nick. And
one more thing.
Another one soon.
One more thing.
Go on then, Neil.
Nick, do you have a coin by any chance? Because a stupid bet was made the other day by certain 2 gentlemen you see on the screen there, Dom and
I didn't get involved.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
And basically, whoever loses the coin toss has to shave their hair on air on the next podcast on Friday, basically.
Well, does it have to be on air, or can we do it for the podcast?
No, absolutely not. On air, has to be.
Okay.
All right, and Nick, as you're, the most official adjudicator out of all of us, if you could do the coin toss, we will.
Hey, give me one.
Let me just grab a coin. Thank you very much.
Definitely not happening.
Yes, it is. You wouldn't back out in front of everyone.
No. So guys, just especially for this moment, I don't know if the camera can see it, but we're going to pull out the Las Vegas rugby ref coin. There's heads and a tails. Who would like to call?
Dom, I'll let you go, Donna.
No, Donovan. Because it'll look like a
heads, mate. Heads.
Right. Are we ready? Call it in the air. What was the shout?
Heads.
What's that?
It's a head.
Yes! Does that mean? That means I've won.
Dom's got to shave your head.
No, if it lands on heads, doesn't the head do it?
He called heads.
No, why would you flip a coin? Say heads, and if it lands on heads, then you lose. How does that work?
That's rubbish.
You've never been captain before, then, Dom?
No, I normally
Are you
outsource
questioning the
that kind
ref's
of work.
decision, Dom?
Huh?
Are you questioning the ref's decision?
Oh, of course not.
Send you
Anyway,
off.
You want to be glad the weather's getting warmer.
Well, yeah, and I won't be out in public for the next couple of weeks either, so hopefully we'll go back. Right, nice one. Thank you very much, Nick, for your time. And hopefully we'll get done podcast soon.
I look forward to seeing you soon, guys. Take care.
Nice one.
Yeah, thanks very much.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.